Welcome to the HVAC Sales Masterclass. Today I'm going to walk you through our trust framework for how we close more deals at the table, how we keep trust with the customer, how we continue to get 5-star reviews. In the HVAC business I own, we have over 800 5-star reviews. We've been in business 20 years. I'm passing the business down to my sons, one of whom currently works in the company. So I like to do sales a certain way. I like to keep my customers for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. So high pressure, sleazy sales is definitely not my thing. I know that's not your thing. That's why you're here. So I want to share with you how we've created the trust sales framework, which is a very specific way to sell. It's pretty much the opposite of the high pressure sales that you don't want your selling techs or your comfort salespeople to use, right? That's why you're here. If you're not here to generate trust, or if you're here just to sell people a whole bunch of stuff that they don't need, go ahead and log out, go ahead and click out, because this is not for you. I'm not here to help that kind of person. But most of us are not like that, right? Let me guess. You started your HVAC company because you left your boss or you wanted to go out on your own. You like to fix machines. You like to help customers. You like to be a pillar in your community, but you have to make sales to survive. So you want to do it a certain way. Okay, so this webinar is going to teach you that process. It's a tried and true process. I've used it in my company. HVAC sales trainer Ariel Robinson is the one that taught it to me, and he's the one inside of our HVAC coaching program that teaches the sales process. So this is the trust framework. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so this is an overview of some of the things we're going to go over today. Now, if you look at the slide here, we have, first of all, the mental edge, the mindset, because our mindset is very, very important. What's our view on sales? What is our mindset when we go into this home, right? Number 2, the core selling skills. What makes people buy? Why do people buy in the first place? If you don't understand why people purchase, then you'll have a hard time making sales. As a matter of fact, I remember when I lose sales to someone who's $2,000 to $3,000 more than my bid, that's what showed me that maybe I wasn't as good at sales as I thought, because people don't buy on price, even though we think they do. We think, well, we lose a lot of quotes because of people undercutting, when in reality, oftentimes we lose a lot of quotes because we don't know what makes people buy, and they don't hear that in the sales process. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about closing the deal right there at the table in the moment. No more sending people estimates and so on and so forth. We're going to cover objections, the 4 main objections. There's really only 4. And those 4 are disguised in different ways. So I'm going to teach you how to recognize those 4 and tell you how to overcome those 4. And then we'll talk about some other things. Okay, so let's get right into it. First of all, if you're here, you're already ahead of the game, because the statistics say that only 35% of all HVAC companies ever try to improve their sales process. Most don't even have a sales process. I didn't have a sales process. I thought I did, until I really started investing in it. What I was doing was, people would call, they'd ask for an estimate, I'd show up. I thought I would do a really good job, but really what I was doing was walking around the house, taking photos, and then giving the homeowner a price, hoping that they would accept that price. And if I won it, I won it. If I didn't, I didn't. When I really invested in sales training, I started to learn that it's very possible to keep your prices that you need and even close people for a lot more than the other people that you're bidding against. I love it when I go to a home and a homeowner asks me to do the job and we complete the job, and I look at the other quotes, and the 2 to 3 other quotes that we bid against are $2,000 to $3,000 less. I love it, and I know why I'm winning at a higher price. And oftentimes I know that my competitors don't know why they're losing. Puts me at an advantage, and you're already at an advantage if you're watching this, because most of the time we're technicians that started a company, or our selling techs are technicians that are just interested in fixing things. And our sales techs typically aren't sales reps. They're not salesmen or saleswomen. They're techs that have kind of converted onto the sales side. And selling is an actual skill. So congrats to you for learning this. Just going through this entire webinar, if you can just implement one thing, you're already ahead of the other 70% some odd companies that never even do anything like this. All right, I already shared. This webinar is for those that want to build trust, that want to do things right that want to sell things to people that people want and that people need, not selling things that people don't want and that people don't need, right? There's no point in doing that. And you don't have to sell that way. And to be honest, a lot of times, some of the smaller companies feel like the large companies are evil and they're doing evil sales, and that's why they get so big. When in reality, a lot of the bigger companies just know how to sell someone what they already want and what they already need. And they're making that connection with the customer. Simply put, you see it right there. This is not for someone who exploits customers. So if you're here to exploit customers, please log out. All right, let's talk about what sales is. Sales is not, so if you take an idea of what you think sales is, you have a word, everybody has their different word. Sales is not in and of itself sleazy or greasy or slimy. There are people who are sleazy and greasy and slimy, but sales is not that. If you're an honest, ethical person and you're a salesperson, your sales will be honest and ethical. If you're a greasy, slimy, unethical person, your sales will be sleazy, grimy, and unethical, right? So sales is not bad. As a matter of fact, if we're already in the home on a sale, it's because the homeowner wants us there. They're asking to be sold. But the thing is, they are asking for trust. They want trust. They want you to be honest. They want to buy something, but they want to buy what they need and what they want. They know what they want. They want comfort. They don't want to be hot anymore. They don't want to be cold anymore, but they don't know what they need. So they're trusting you to give them what they need. Here's the thing. You don't know what they need until you start asking them questions. So if I can start asking questions, think about a doctor, right? Consultative selling. The doctor comes in. He doesn't just give you medicine. Maybe there's some doctors, unfortunately, that do that. But doctors come in. They don't know what you need. They find out what you need by asking you questions. Can you tell me about this situation? Where does it hurt? What type of pain is it? When did it start? Is it consistent? Is it on certain days? Does it start when you eat something? They're taking all of your information that you're giving them, and they can put all that information together, and they can tell you, this is the situation. This is what you have. This is what you need. It's the same thing when we go to a customer's house. Consultative selling is being able to have enough options ready for the customer to purchase when you find out which one that they need. So I'm going to tell you like this. So you come to a homeowner's house, you are going to have a menu, just like a restaurant. When someone comes into a restaurant and the waiter comes, the waiter doesn't know what the person in the restaurant wants, so they give you a full menu for you to choose from. There's lots of options. It's no different than when you come to a homeowner's house. If you don't have enough options for them to choose from, and they don't see an option that they like or they need, they are not going to purchase. If you go to a restaurant and there's one thing on the menu and you don't like it, you will leave. You'll end up going to a restaurant that has a full menu. You'll find something that you like and you'll pick something from there. And you'll probably keep going to that restaurant. So we need to make sure that we have a wide range of options. So if you're selling one unit, we need to change that. We need to have multiple units, at least 4. And I know, a lot of companies, especially some of the smaller companies, will say, well, I'm not into that high efficiency stuff. You cannot decide what the customer wants or what the customer wants to spend money on. Rule number 1 in sales, do not sell out of your own pocket or out of your own budget or out of your own desires. I went on a car dealership recently and I wanted a certain car. And when I got there, I asked for the vehicle. The salesman said, well, you don't really want that vehicle. It costs this much and this much. So I left. The reality is he doesn't want that vehicle. That has nothing to do with me. Show all the options. Show what everything is. Let the person pick. You just by offering multiple options, you increase the chances of selling. When you have those multiple options, the homeowner still doesn't know which one he wants or needs, and you still don't know. So you start asking questions. Do you have high electric bills? Do you have allergies? Are you concerned about this? Are you planning on renting? Are you planning on living here forever? Now you're starting to get closer to what the person wants. If the person says, well, I only care about comfort. I want every room to be exactly the same. Sometimes it's muggy in this room. Sometimes it's muggy in this room. I want my electric bills to be really low. I'm going to be here forever. Me and my wife are going to be in this house for the next 50 years. Now you're starting to lean more on one of those high efficiency systems. That person is telling you what they want. If someone says, I'm going to be moving out of this house next month. I'm selling it. I'm moving to Tennessee, my job starts next week, whatever. Now they're automatically pretty much telling you what they want. They want this base unit to sell the house, right? So you're asking questions and they're telling you, because you're the expert, what they need, and then you say, this is the one for you. So you see how this is non-pushy sales. This is questioning. Okay, but before you can even get to the sales portion of it, we need to have a rapport building part of the sale. When you're in a person's house and you're selling, rapport is king. People only buy from those that they know. People only buy from the people they like. People only buy from the people they trust. And if you're coming in like a robot, just like a professional, and you're just like, where's the unit? Okay, it's going to be, here's my quote, it's 7,000. They don't know anything about you. They don't know you. They're not sure if they trust you. They're not going to buy from you. So you have to build rapport. And it's okay to build rapport and be a person when you're on an estimate. And rapport always starts from the minute you ring that doorbell, and it's built throughout the entire process. So there's not a part of the sale where it's rapport building and then now we're done with that. Let's move on to this, this, and this. Rapport is during the entire process. And I'll tell you what it looks like. You walk up to the house, you see some football signs, or you see a Florida license plate, and maybe you're from Florida, or maybe your auntie lives in Florida, right? Automatic connections from the beginning. You ring the doorbell, you introduce yourself, you state why you're there, and say, hey, I noticed you have a Florida tag. I grew up in Florida. Where did you grow up? Boom. Instant connection. And it's okay to do that. As a matter of fact, if you don't do that, you're already losing, because people want to make a personal connection. They want to be able to trust you. They're getting these quotes and their mind is troubled with, oh, is this going to cost a lot of money? Is someone going to come and offer me something I don't need? So they're automatically going to want to get out of that stressful state into a more comfort state. And when you make a personal connection, you bring them into that comfort state. It's natural for us to want to move to that. So you make connections. I was always taught when I started, don't comment on things that you see. Well, that turned me into a robot and kind of like a cold, non-personal person, which was why before I got sales training, my closing rate wasn't as high as it could be. When I started making personal connections and noticing there's a soccer ball in the yard, and I say, oh man, do you or one of your kids play soccer? Oh yeah, my daughter plays soccer. My son plays soccer. What team does she play on? Instant connections. Now it's going to be a lot easier for them to trust you and know you and like you. And you're building that from the time you ring the door to the time you're walking around taking pictures, to the time you're sitting at the table. All of that, you're going to be building rapport throughout the process. Now, I always say this. People who talk a lot, if your homeowner talks a lot, you can talk a lot. If your homeowner is not responding and they're very calm and quiet, don't be a joker or a clown, okay? So you want to use emotional intelligence and make a connection when you can, right? So be careful with that. And that's called mirroring, right? You want to mirror their energy. You can warm them up a little if they're cold and nervous, but if you notice, hey, they don't really like to joke around, stop making an insane amount of jokes, okay? But build rapport and make personal connections, okay? Rapport is king. It opens up the deal and makes you more personal. Now, we talked about questioning a little earlier at the beginning. I was getting ahead of myself. Questions is where you really find out what the person wants and where they're from, because you don't know what they want. You don't know what their price point is. You don't know their motives. You don't know what kind of things they like to buy. Well, guess what? You can ask them and they can tell you. You don't have to guess. This isn't a mystery. You ask them, they'll tell you. So what makes you want to replace this unit? Oh, it's constantly breaking down. It works, but I don't like to have a repairman here once every 6 months. Oh, okay, so your concern is really a unit that is solid. You want a good, solid unit that doesn't break down as often. All right, so you're connecting and finding out what they value. Do you understand? Are you getting what I'm saying here? Okay, so you want to get really good at asking questions and pausing to listen and making mental notes so you can start tailoring the product that you're going to sell them when you get to that table. All right, so communication is very important. You want to always speak in the customer's language. And I don't mean language like English, Spanish, Mandarin. I mean layman's terms. I'm known on the internet, on my social media for my HVAC business for using words like freon, right? For making these kind of words like, I was looking at burners and I call them cracks instead of whatever the terms are. Why? Because I'm not talking to other HVAC professionals. I'm talking to a homeowner. They understand the word Freon. They don't understand the word refrigerant. And the more they don't understand you, the more they're not trusting you, because they're starting to feel like you're talking over my head. I don't understand it. And if I don't understand what I'm buying, I'm not comfortable buying it because I may be buying the wrong thing. But if you speak in the customer's language and you can explain things in layman's terms, if you can find other things that you can compare an AC unit to, for example, a car, you may say, well, there's different brands ACs. There's economic ones and there's higher end ones, just like you see in cars. There's cheap cars and then there's the high end cars, and it's no different. So you're starting to make them like, I understand this guy. Man, he's the first person that came and explained it in a way that I can understand. I really like this person. So you see what I'm doing here, right? This is all a sales process, and there's no surprise why someone would buy something at a higher price when they understand what they're buying, and when you took time to explain to them, and when you present something that they actually want because they told you, because you were asking questions, and then you tailored it to them. You get it? Use analogies, things that make them get that aha moment. Now, you're at the table. This is your menu. You have a bunch of things for them to choose from. People like to have choices. All of us want to have choices. We want to choose what restaurant to go to. We want to choose what clothes that we wear. We don't want someone else to choose our outfit, right? Nobody likes it. We don't like when our spouse orders food from us and says, hey, he'll take that. We want to be able to choose. And when you have options, it takes away that idea that, well, this guy's just selling me this one thing. You give them options. They can pick off a menu. They pick the one that they like. And you can even go even further than that. And when you finally get to the table, keep in mind you've been having 20 to 30 minutes of conversations at this point, because you rang the doorbell, you're building rapport, you talked about soccer for a couple minutes, you talked about Florida or whatever you saw, and you're taking pictures and you talk about how long you've lived in the town. Do that whole process. Now they know you and they like you, and you've been asking questions, weaving that in there. So you can actually say, based off of the things that you told me, I think this unit would be a good choice for you. You see what's happening is now you, as the trusted advisor at this point, they're hearing from you, oh man, he just talked to me for 30, 40 minutes. He knows me, he knows what I need, and he's saying this is the one that I think will work for you and your family. They're going to say, let's do it, right? Now, the ethical part comes in is that you know which one they need or they don't need. And only you can be ethical when it comes to that. Just don't sell out of your own pocket. Sell what they told you that they wanted. Like I said, I had a situation where I called and followed up with a guy, and he told me he had another AC company do the job. And when I found out they were $3,000 more, I asked him straight up. I said, hey, they were a lot higher than me. What was the reason that you chose them? He said, well, they offered me the high efficiency unit. And that's what I wanted, and you didn't even offer it. Changed my life, right? It's the homeowner's money. If that's what they want, that's what they want, right? As long as you're being responsible, you understand? Okay. So when you sell off of a menu like this, what you want to do is you always want to, first of all, financing, you want to mention early and you want to mention often, because that is one of the objections. If you offer financing and you ask, hey, we do have customer financing up to whatever, no interest, whatever it is that your company has. We have 0% for 24 months. Is financing something you're interested in? And if they say yes, then you know I'm going to mention that in a couple minutes. If they say no, not at all, you say, okay, well, I'll tell you what, you're not interested in financing at all. Let me run through it really quick just in case it comes up later and you decide to do it, right? Because sometimes that's a smokescreen. Some people don't want to admit that they need financing. And if you don't walk through it, they'll do it with someone else, right? Okay, so you always want to start with the higher end system first and work your way back. And I'll tell you why. There's a specific reason for that. Is one, it's price anchoring. But number two, if you show someone something for $20,000 and the next one down is $18,000, now the $18,000 doesn't look so bad. And you go down to $16,000, now the $16,000 doesn't look so bad because they're comparing it to the first thing that they saw. You cannot go from $16,000 and say, oh, now this unit is $18,000. Now this unit is $20,000. Now this is starting to look like a lot of money. That's what's called price anchoring. Always start from the highest one and work your way back. Not to mention, FOMO is a big emotional thing for human beings. We don't like people to add things onto our bill, right? But another thing that we don't like is we don't like things to be taken away from us. So when I start at the higher end one and I tell you all the features that it has, and then I say, okay, let's go down to this one. It's a couple $1,000s less, but it doesn't have this and it doesn't have this and it doesn't. People don't like things to be taken away, right? So you always want to work with the high end backwards. Of course, ethical sales. If someone is selling the house next week, you're going to sell them the one that they need. They're going to be gone, right? Okay, so once you get to the close, you do not ever want to say, hey, take your time and decide, I'm going to send you this estimate. There's no need to mention that you're going to send it. Once you say that, the deal is off. I'm going to send you this estimate. You can have a chance to look over it later, but would you like to schedule today? You just told them they have a lot more time to think about it. While you're there in the house with them, don't allude to the future that they have more time to think about it. If they want to take time to think about it, let them. But right now you're there, you're the trusted advisor. Let them know I'm here and I can answer any of your questions here. You get it? Okay, so I'm getting ahead of myself. So after you explain your options, you're going to say, which of these options works better for you? And then you're going to be silent. Don't say anything. Wait for them to say that one. Okay? Now, when they say, I think I like this one, the one in the middle, you say, okay, all right, let's get on the schedule tomorrow. Don't be afraid to ask for the sale. You have to ask for the sale and you have to get comfortable with it. Ask them, all right, we'll get on the schedule tomorrow, 9 o'clock in the morning. Now what's going to happen is just by asking for the sale, your sales are going to start to go way up. If they don't close, the next thing that happens is they're going to give you an objection. They might say, well, not right now. And you can say, oh, okay. Is there a reason? They're going to give you an objection. An objection is not the end of the conversation. The homeowner may be wanting to get out of the conversation, but for you as a salesperson, a sales objection is another insight into their mindset. And it's an insight into why they're not buying at the moment. That is gold to a salesperson. When someone tells you the reason they don't want to buy, that is the thing that you're going to talk about and that you're going to cover. For example, if someone says, well, I don't want to buy this car because it's red and I don't like red cars. Okay, well, easy. You're going to sell them a car that's not red. Okay? Let's talk about the 4 main objections. All right, so really quick, research shows up to 60 to 80% of sales fail because of objection handling. And objections need to be covered during that whole hour-long sales process. For example, price is a big sales objection. People care about the price. The main way to overcome price objection is to make it valuable. Show them how valuable you are. All you that are watching this, you're the best HVAC companies. You do a great job. You vacuum systems down. You do all of the things that you're supposed to do. You braze with nitrogen. You know a lot of your competitors are not doing that. That's why you're more valuable. They don't know that. So you're going to be mentioning these things through the sales process so that they understand that it's more valuable, so that when you get to the price and they know that they had a quote for $1,000 less from another company this morning, but they didn't hear all of that other stuff from the other person. So they're thinking, man, he's more valuable, not he's more expensive. Okay. So you want to be covering all those objections on purpose intentionally throughout that conversation. So it's not just random conversations, it's objection handling throughout the long rapport building process, so that when you get to the close, those have already been handled. If someone raises an objection when you ask for the sale, it's because you didn't handle the objections properly before that, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, so you want to have the 4 main objections understood. Now, 48% of salespeople never make an attempt to get past the first objection. And what that means is when someone says, oh, well, I need more time to think about it. I'll get back with you tomorrow. They say, okay, yeah, no problem. Half of salespeople never even try after that, which is going to level up your sales because you're going to get past that objection, because you're going to find out if it's a smoke screen, or you're going to realize that you didn't give enough value or you didn't give enough information to make them make a decision right now. Maybe you didn't give enough limited availability, right? Prices are going up tomorrow. Limited availability, you get what I'm saying. Only 20% of all sales are closed on the first attempt. So that means 80% of all sales, an objection is raised. So no surprise, you should already set in your mind that when I ask for the sale, 80% of my people are going to raise an objection. It's not the end of it. It's just the next step for you as a salesperson. And you don't have to be pushy and stand there forever, 4, 5, 6 hours, or be aggressive. But you do want to, in a soft, emotionally intelligent way, give more information. And you do that by asking questions. Okay, there are only 4 main objections. Let's run through them really quickly. Now, in my coaching program, we go over these objections in depth over a period of 8 weeks. So we send you the videos once a week. We send an objection handling, one specific objection. Then the next week is a different one. Then the next week a different one. Then we go through role playing and all of that so you can really get a deep understanding of how to handle these objections. But for this webinar, we're not going to go in really deep. I'm just going to tell you what they are. If you want to explore more sales training, then you can reach out to me and we'll get you in the program, okay? You can schedule a discovery call is the best way to do that. So you go on my calendar. I have the link right there on my website. You can always email me. And what we'll do is we'll do an audit of your sales process and we'll find out where we can plug in certain things. And that's called a discovery call. So let's get right into it. Time, price, belief, and spouse. What does this mean? I'll give you some examples. I need time to think about it. That's a time objection. Oh, well, you're a lot higher than the other companies. That's a price objection. Another price objection could be I need 3 more quotes, right? And if you would say, oh, okay, well, what are you looking to get out of the other quotes? I just want to make sure I'm getting a good deal. That's a price objection. Belief objection, they're not buying from you. And this can go into the other objections. They're not buying for you, or they may need more time, or they may want to get a better price because they don't believe you're the man for the job. They don't believe you're the woman for the job. You haven't offered enough value. You haven't convinced them that you're an expert. You haven't convinced them that you know their needs enough to offer them what they need. That's a belief objection. You cover that by value. And spouse. Well, I need to talk to my wife about it. Or I need to talk to my husband about it. That's a spouse objection. Most of the time, spouse is not a real objection. That's a smokescreen. And just give you a little tidbit here. If you are doing your estimates at 6 p.m., your closing rates are going to go way up just off of that. Because if you can get both decision makers there, you're pretty much going to crush 1 out of 3. It's 25% objections you just crushed. Any one of these can be a smokescreen. I'll give you an example. Let's use the spouse one because it's one of the most common. Okay, well, I really like your estimate. I want to go with you. Let me just show it to my wife. I always run everything by my wife. They may not want to buy from you. They just don't want to tell you. Okay, so you cover that. Because most of the time, they have their own objection. They just don't want to say you're too expensive or you don't seem like you're a good company. So they'll just put it on their spouse. How many times have you put things on your spouse when someone invites you out and you say, oh, let me ask the wife? You don't want to go. You just don't want to tell them no. So you put it on her, right? Or you put it on him for the ladies that are watching. So this is what I do in the spouse objection. I say, okay, yeah, hey, I've been married for 21 years. Believe me, I don't make any big decisions without including my spouse. She's my rock. So here's the thing. You know her very well. You know her better than anyone. So you know what questions she's going to have about this proposal. So what things do you think that she'll ask you or she'll have concerns about? And when you ask that, if it's a smokescreen, that person is going to tell you what their real objection is. So they may say, well, my wife is going to be more concerned about the warranty. They're telling you that they don't believe your warranty is good enough, right? You get it? You get it? You learning? Okay. All right. So we get into objection handling a lot more in our training and our HVAC training. It's, people have sworn by it. You go on our website. We have tons of testimonials from other HVAC companies that have increased their closing rates. It started with me when I instituted this sales process. My closing rate went from 35 to 45% on just straight estimates. Of course, our tech leads, when we're on a service call, those are closer to 75%, 80%. Okay, how do you get over these hurdles? We like to teach restate, clarify, close, right? So RC2, restate, clarify. If someone says, well, I need more time to think about it, why does someone need more time to think about it? It's because they're not convinced. You don't take time to think about things when you're convinced. Have you ever bought anything you already sold? You're already sold. You walked in, you knew what you wanted, you bought it, you walked out of the store. On the flip side, you may have walked in a store and you're like, I'm really not sure, so you walk out because that brand or that company or that product doesn't have you convinced. So when someone says, I need a little more time to think about it, you say, okay, no problem. Well, since you're going to think about it, I may not have explained everything to you, and that's why you're on the fence about it. So do you mind if I run through it again? And you run through it again, or you open the door for questions. Say, so what specific things do you think you'll think about the most? They're going to tell you, and they're telling you what their objection is. It's okay to push through the objections. Keep in mind, People don't want to go to 3 or 4 estimates. They have to take off work to meet these HVAC companies. They got to go through these spiels. And in the meantime, their house is hot and they have stress because they want this stress to be alleviated. So it's okay if you take more time in the home. They're usually fine with that. So restate, clarify, and then close again. And it becomes a loop, right? Okay, let's go to, now these objections here, I'm not going to go super deep into them, but we have the time objection, you restate, you clarify, you close, right? I understand needing more time. It's a big decision. That's restating. You're restating what they said, right? Clarify. Typically when I hear this from customers, what I'm hearing from you, I didn't do a good enough job displaying value in everything that we do, right? So you restate, clarify, close. You can always take screenshots of this. This is the spouse objection. Spouse objection continued. This is one of the most common ones, which I said you can eliminate if you can meet both people, right? And you can do that typically by meeting a little later in the day. And some people say, well, I don't have time to push all my estimates to 6 p.m. Well, you do if you're closing at 60% and each job is $15,000 to $20,000. It's worth it. All right, so that is the HVAC sales master class. I've covered a lot. If you can just implement one small thing in that process, you're just going to bring your closing rate up just a tad bit more. If you have any questions, schedule a discovery call with me. I hope you learned something. I hope you have the greatest year your HVAC company has ever seen and that you change the world. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.